The film begins when a woman named Brianna Scott enters her boyfriend's restaurant. Brianna meets her boyfriend, Nick, who surprises her. Nick says that he has more surprises for his girlfriend. In the midst of a romantic dinner, Nick proposes to his girlfriend. Brianna is very surprised and happy because she has been waiting for that moment for a long time. As they are about to leave the restaurant, Nick says that his car keys are left in his office. Nick goes and finds his ex-girlfriend, Christina, in the room. For Christina, Nick is a man she can't forget. Christina says that she has been suffering since their relationship ended and is unhappy with Nick and Brianna's relationship. On the other hand, Brianna follows Nick to his office and finds Nick alone with Christina. Nick explains that their waiter is facing some issues, so they stayed there a bit longer. Finally, the couple reaches Brianna's apartment and they celebrate their happiness. The next day, Brianna, who is a lecturer at a university, listens to an essay written and presented by her student named Cooper. After class, Brianna praises Cooper and tells him that he is talented and hopes that he will work harder in his studies. When Cooper returns home from the university, he tells his sister about the compliments given by his professor, who turns out to be Christina, Nick's ex-girlfriend, and Nick is the fiancé of the professor Cooper admires. Cooper says that he really likes his English literature professor. Christina does not know that her brother has fallen in love with the woman who took Nick away from her life. The next morning, Cooper meets Brianna again and hands her a new English literature essay that he wrote. Cooper does this to impress Brianna and catch her attention. When Cooper is about to leave, a woman named Stephanie gives him her number. On the way, Cooper, who is driving, wants to tell his sister about the woman who gave him her number. Unfortunately, this distracts Cooper and he gets into an accident. The young man is taken to the hospital, and Christina, who receives the phone call, immediately goes to see her brother. Christina says that she is very worried because ever since their parents' death, Cooper is her only family. Elsewhere, Brianna, who is having lunch at that time, receives news that her student had an accident. She immediately goes and brings the biscuits that Cooper really likes. The woman is very concerned about her student, especially when Cooper says that he has a slight brain injury. Brianna then gives her private number and says that she will help him if Cooper has any problems with his studies. A few days have passed since the incident. Brianna, who just returned from shopping, feels like she's being watched. She quickly enters her house and prepares the planned dinner with Nick. After waiting for a while, Nick still hasn't arrived, and Brianna receives a message that he will be late because there's a minor issue at his restaurant. Brianna becomes suspicious because of what happened the other day when Nick was alone with Christina. She decides to secretly go to the restaurant and catches Nick being alone with one of the waitresses. Brianna is furious, and even though Nick tries to explain, she decides to leave. The next morning, Andy, a fellow professor, notices Brianna's troubled face. They talk about Nick's behavior of secretly being alone with the waitress. Andy tells Brianna that if she needs him, he will always be there for her. A few days later, when Cooper is walking with Stephanie, they are harassed by Pete, who insults their favorite professor and calls Brianna a deceptive woman. Cooper gets angry upon hearing that and headbutts Pete, but he still ends up being beaten by him. That night, Christina tries to advise Cooper, but he ends up shouting at her, leading to an argument between them. A few days later, when Cooper is looking for Brianna's office, he sees a photo showing Brianna and Nick, his older brother's ex-girlfriend. Cooper secretly takes the photo. That night, Nick comes to Brianna's apartment with flowers in his hand. He wants to apologize for what happened earlier. Nick tries to explain that Christina is just a waitress going through a rough time. He also says that Christina initiated being alone with him to talk. Nick adds that if Brianna wants, he will fire Christina. Finally, Brianna understands and forgives her boyfriend. Nick then goes to the bathroom because he's sweating heavily and intends to invite Brianna to play. Shortly after, Nick's phone, which is in front of Brianna, receives a message from Christina's number, saying that Christina is very happy and deeply loves Nick. Unbeknownst to Brianna, the message is sent by Cooper, who already knows about their relationship. When Nick returns, he sees Brianna crying and says that she is disappointed with Nick's lies. Nick finally explains that Christina is his ex-girlfriend and he didn't admit it earlier because he was afraid of losing Brianna. But Brianna is fed up and returns the engagement ring to Nick, ending their relationship. After learning about the cracks in Brianna and Nick's relationship, Cooper starts looking for all the social media accounts used by Brianna. Nick disguises himself as someone named William, trying to find a way to enter her heart. A few days later, their online relationship makes Brianna feel comfortable and she eagerly awaits his messages. Their conversations even turn into more serious topics. Elsewhere, Christina and Nick start their relationship again. One morning, Cooper becomes frustrated because Christina comes home late almost every day. Christina tries to explain the reason, but Cooper acts violently and bangs Christina's head on the table. She then meets Nick and explains Cooper's increasingly unstable condition. Meanwhile, Cooper is still trying to win over Brianna. One night, Brianna drives Cooper home. For various reasons, Cooper asks Brianna to accompany him inside his house and offers her a drink as a thank you. However, since Brianna is about to go home and drive, she only asks for plain water. Cooper brings her the water, which has been mixed with a sleeping pill. While they are talking, Brianna starts feeling dizzy and extremely drowsy, eventually losing consciousness. Seeing the professor he has long desired, Cooper immediately engages in his depraved act. The next day, Brianna wakes up and finds Cooper next to her. Brianna realizes that her student has been manipulating her and feels extremely annoyed with Cooper's behavior, demanding him to stay away. However, her actions are futile as Cooper is still deeply obsessed with her. One night, when Brianna returns to her apartment, she finds it filled with rose petals and her bedroom window open. Her suspicions immediately point to Cooper. Brianna is shocked and terrified. The next morning, while Brianna is chatting with Andy at the university, unbeknownst to them, Cooper overhears their conversation discussing Brianna's interest in a man who always surprises her. When Brianna is teaching, she receives a bouquet of flowers and a gift box. Brianna goes to her office and upon opening the gift, she finds a letter and her missing underwear. After the class, Brianna, feeling suspicious of Cooper, asks about the surprise. It turns out that the surprise is from Cooper, and not only that, Cooper threatens to share a photo he took of them playing in his room. Brianna is shocked because her kindness has been misunderstood by Cooper, leading to his obsession with her. However, Cooper doesn't care and states that if Brianna doesn't want to be his lover, he will share the photo on social media. But Brianna is not afraid because she knows she is innocent and challenges Cooper to do it. A few days later, Cooper meets Stephanie. He manipulates Stephanie to hate Brianna. Cooper tells her that their teacher forbids them from dating and threatens to give her a bad grade. Stephanie initially doesn't believe it, but Cooper continues to manipulate her and claims that he loves Stephanie deeply. Since Stephanie already has feelings for Cooper, she accepts his love without realizing that Cooper is just using her. The next morning, Cooper meets Stephanie again. He convinces her to meet at the school that night and intends to have some fun there, making it a memorable night for both of them. Elsewhere, Brianna meets with Nick because she can no longer hold back her emotions towards Cooper. Brianna tells him everything from the beginning, being honest with the whole story. Nick responds maturely, saying that he will do whatever it takes to help Brianna because he has always loved her. In the evening, Stephanie comes to the school and meets Cooper. They enter the school and go to Brianna's room. Elsewhere, Christina, who is in the restaurant restroom, receives a message from Cooper, a photo of him playing with Brianna. She then goes to meet Brianna, who is with Nick at that time. There, they realize that they are all connected, and Brianna receives a message from Cooper asking her to meet at the school if she wants Stephanie to be safe. Brianna feels responsible for all the events that have occurred. She goes to the school with Nick. Christina also follows because she is worried about her sister. Meanwhile, Cooper asks Stephanie not to let anyone in, even if it's Brianna. From outside, they hear a knocking on the door, but Stephanie hesitates to open it. In the midst of heavy rain, a woman walks and a man follows her from behind, holding a pair of scissors. A few moments later, the man stabs the girl in front of him. It turns out the man is Cooper, who mistook the person in front of him for Brianna. However, the girl is Christina, his own sister. Elsewhere, Brianna and Nick persuade Stephanie to open the door. They tell her that Cooper is a dangerous person. Finally, Stephanie believes them and they quickly leave the place. On their way, they see Christina's lifeless body. Cooper has been waiting for that moment, and without Brianna realizing it, Cooper walks up behind her and holds her hostage. Cooper talks about his overwhelming loneliness and how Brianna's presence gave him a glimmer of hope, but it ended in disappointment because she didn't reciprocate his feelings. When Cooper lets his guard down, Brianna manages to escape, and Nick immediately attacks him. As Cooper focuses on the fight, Brianna hits him with a fire extinguisher, knocking him unconscious. In the end, we see Cooper attending his sister's funeral, accompanied by the police. Now, Cooper is in a specialized mental institution, narrating the details of his murder case.